The tale of two campaigns. Joe Biden on the West Coast for fundraising in Seattle today after rubbing shoulders with big donors in California yesterday. This while President Donald Trump is expected to hold a massive rally in Wildwood, New Jersey later today. Here to weigh in is Fox News contributor and our friend David Webb. David, I noticed that, Biden's on the West Coast. The thing is, Donald Trump couldn't campaign on the West Coast right now if he wanted to.
Right. The flight alone would eat up a good part of his trip.
Well, and he's confined to a courtroom here. So, yes, that's the campaign style in the events, but it's by necessity right now.
Yeah, but let's draw some contrast, because here's what you really have for Joe Biden. And he's raised a lot of money out of the San Francisco liberal crowd. If you break it down, there's lots of information out there that you can dig up. But $30 million in that area alone, these are the billionaire bundlers that want their taxpayer subsidies for their, Silicon Valley subsidies, chip subsidies. Dig a little bit further. What are they putting in? They're putting in for their interests. At the same time, they want to take on the billionaires. So you have Biden versus Trump. You have agility versus fragility. Right? The agility of Donald Trump to still campaign while being held in New York. Mm-hmm. You have the fragility of Biden, who literally will have trouble getting through a speech without a major gaffe. Here's the things that really matter. The economy. You had a strong economy under Trump. The people can now see the rematch of the economies and the presidencies. That's what's coming up in November. That's important. Trump versus Biden. How do you feel, right? The Ronald Reagan question.
Sure.
You look at all the other contrasts between the two men, and when you go down the line, you see that Biden is weak. It's not about polling. It's about what Americans are dealing with this morning, Saturday morning, going to the grocery store. Their costs are up for eggs. Their costs are up for bread. The gas they have to put in the car, that goes up. All the things you have to do today cost more under Biden.
And the way Biden is relaying that message is quite different than the way Donald Trump is. We've got, I think, a graphic of the campaign style of these two candidates. So Biden's doing a lot of fundraisers. We know that. Those are close. And then smaller campaign events that are carefully curated, whereas Donald Trump's doing a lot of rallies and less fundraisers because they're a better use of his time. But Donald Trump's also done a really nice job in New York City of finding the bodega owner or the construction worker to demonstrate, hey, I can campaign in places you never thought I could.
I think Donald Trump, and I've said this since the beginning, he should punish the Democrats by retaking New York City. Donald Trump was New York City long before Biden came along as president of the United States. You think about the city, iconic buildings. You think about all the property from the Woolman Ring forward. This is a man who was literally a part of the fabric of this city. And, of course, he's got a big presence. Go to the bodegas. Go to Roosevelt Avenue in Queens. You've got open-air brothels right now in Queens. You've got young women being prostituted, illegal aliens that have been brought in. By the way, that's AOC's district. Donald Trump should walk down Roosevelt Avenue, open-air sales going on, selling anything to survive. He should go to the Bronx, where a woman just had when you talk about crime in New York and Alvin Bragg's priorities, has anyone seen the video of this woman where the guy throws a belt over her neck, drags her down on the sidewalk, and then sexually assaults her in between two cars?
Man, no, that's part
Trump
of the contrast you're talking about.
He should be on that corner. He should be at Columbia. He should be out in front.
He can't be everywhere at all times. But
he's
right.
Donald Trump, and he's got the agility, and I think that's key. Americans see the difference.
Sure, no doubt. Let me get your take real quick on a scoop that came out just this morning from Axios. It's unconfirmed. We don't know if it's true, but this is what they're reporting based on two anonymous sources. Trump quietly moves Nikki Haley, off his blacklist. Now, it's important to note, spokespeople for Trump and Haley declined to comment to Axios, but this is one of those D.C. whisper things. Do you think could be true that Trump would want to bring Haley into their orbit as a potential running mate?
I don't see it as a running mate. I really don't. I think that's not I think it wouldn't be a good working team. Forget how anybody feels about that. Look, moving someone off your blacklist, politics is transactional. Donald Trump is a businessman. And they say, look, if we can get her people to realize that this is the way forward for the Republican Party, he's a uniter. What's the difference between Trump and Biden and how he would approach that? Look at DeSantis. They've talked recently, according to reports. He's bringing the party back together because we have to coalesce as the presumptive nominee or around the presumptive nominee. And this is important. This is how you get Americans back together, not dividing us.
Well, there's a long way from a blacklist to a short list.
Yeah.
So there's just one
there's a
report.
lot of space in between.
David, thank you very much.
Great to see you, Pete.